Are you a wholesaler? Are you looking for investment buyers? Just type in the chat really quickly, like what is it you're looking for? And then if you're really smart, drop your phone number so that somebody can contact you if they've got the thing that you're looking for. Hits camera if that seems like a good idea, if that'd be valuable to have other people reach out to you with some stuff. Awesome. So if you're looking for capital, drop that in the chat. By the way, if you're looking for capital, don't just be like, I need money. Drop what you're looking for capital for. If it's for a multifamily, just say, hey, it's 3-family I'm raising capital on. If you're looking for properties, be clear and specific about what types of properties you're looking for. So for me, I invest in Fall River. So I would say something like I'm looking for 6 families in Fall River, Massachusetts. So that would give a very clear idea of what I'm looking for, and send like a wholesaler or a realtor be able to reach out to me. Duncan is pretty much all set. So we're just going to go on with this for like another 30 seconds, minutes. So if you're a slow typer, type faster. Because networking is really important, and one of the reasons that Boston REIA is so valuable is because of our network. It's the people who are in the room here who have real estate experience, who have either deals, who have knowledge, who could mentor you, who have access to capital. So definitely drop your your information in the chat. What are you looking for? So looking for wholesale properties. I see we have private capital. I see people who are let's see, looking for an off-market gas station in Massachusetts. Excellent. So here's the fatal mistake every single one of you has made so far. No contact information, which means nobody can find that thing for you and get it back to you. Hands to camera if you understand. We're all kind of making a mistake right now. And so drop it in the chat. Also, here's another thing we do here in the Boston REIA is we have a camera in front of us. So if your cameras are not on, go and turn your camera on. This is a really interactive call. The speaker who's coming in is going to want to be able to see your faces and see if the things that they're saying make sense or not. If they're looking at the call in the room and if like people's faces are like this, they're going to know they got to shift gears because we're falling asleep. And if people are really leaning in and paying attention, they're going to know that they're saying something right. And you might have questions. So they'll ask for the opportunity to do questions. Also, if you do have a question, there's something that worked back in school that still works today. We got these hands. We got these little things here. You can put one up, but if you put it up, nobody really sees it. So if you put it to the camera, what happens is your camera actually will make a big change on the screen. Hands to the camera. If we can see if that works, just give that a shot. Put your hand to the camera. All right. All right. Okay. A couple of people, you got it. All right. Half of you don't understand what we're doing here. So, so for the half, we're like, what does he mean? Hand to the camera. What I mean is you take up your hand and then you face the palm and you bring it close to the camera. All right, so give that a try. I'm going to say hands to the camera and you show me that you know what I'm talking about. Just put your hands to the camera, just like this. Go ahead. Hands to the camera. Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, Valerie, you're my only holdout. You're the only one I was actually looking for. So everybody give yourselves a round of applause. We as a team now understand how this instruction works. Hands to the camera is just a way for us to gauge and be like, okay, like they get it. So now I'm seeing in the chat so much better, so much better. There's information, there's details. Like, look at the chat now. This is a valuable asset for all of us. This is something that you can use to go back and follow up with people. You can build relationships. I will tell you that there'll be a whole bunch of real estate agents who are like, oh my God, every one of these people is my client. They're probably not the best agents if they're doing it in the chat. We do have our amazing agent who is Sarah Abram, and Sarah is actually our sponsored agent with the Boston REIA. She is vouched by us. All the other agents who are on here, we don't know who they are. And if you are one of those agents who you might know me, I don't know that I'm looking in the chat. I just don't know. So I would say Sarah Abrams, somebody you want to have a conversation with. Sarah, can you please make sure your information is in the chat if you're looking for deals in the Boston market, deals in Massachusetts federal. Awesome. Thank you. Let's give Sarah a round of applause. She's an amazing agent and she's a Boston REIA member. So she's an investor friendly agent, which is what you want to work with. All right, Duncan, if I got permission, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, I do. I see it.
All right.
Awesome. Let's give Duncan a round of applause. Duncan and Kelly have been running this for years. The original owners of the Boston REIA, they set it up. They're still operating with us. They're still filling the room. They're still letting people know how to become successful. So they've built more millionaires than anybody else I know. Let's give them a big round of applause. Real estate builds more millionaires than any other asset class. And so the Boston REIA has been on this millionaire building mission for a long time, and they've figured it out. It takes networks, it takes knowledge, and it takes accountability. So here at the Boston REIA, every single month we get together. Hence the camera if you can see my screen. And if you can't see my screen, okay, you can. Awesome. Very cool. All right, so we just did a liability. And just as a reminder, we are number one. number one, we're like the GOAT. We're the greatest of all time because we're number one in deal flow, in networking, education, and investor resources. If you haven't gone to the website and you're not a member, you may want to become a member, and you may want to go to the website and get access to all those free resources. We're going to talk a little bit about the discounts we get from Home Depot, but please understand, you also get discounts if you're a member. You get discounts at Equity Trust, Real Protect, Rent Perfect, Office Depot, and so much more. Equity Trust is one of those companies that we use in order to help people get their capital untied from the 401ks. You can see that beautiful realtor on the screen. Sarah Ibram is our official sponsored realtor. She is not just somebody who is talented or smart. She's also a hard worker. She'll outwork any realtor in the market. And that's why one of the reasons that we've put her up here as our sponsored realtor is because people ask us, who should I work with? And the answer before was, we don't know. And then we started going through this interview process. We started, looking at who's doing the best, who's out there, who's showing up to the Boston REIA every single month, who's been effective, who's been volunteering, and who's been actually showing people properties, working with investors, helping them understand whether the deal is right or wrong. And Sarah's really come up, really stepped up as a realtor and as a community member, as somebody who is investor friendly, understands investment, and is an investor herself. So one more time, let's give Sarah Ibram a round of applause. If you don't have her contact in your cell phone, you don't have somebody on your team. You're missing a very vital, important component to your team. Look, I've been investing for a long time. I own over $5 million of real estate still in Massachusetts, even though I've sold a whole bunch. I've sold a bunch of real estate. I've made a boatload of cash in the last 3 years, but I still own $5 million back in Massachusetts. And what I'll tell you is, without my realtors, I would be nothing. I'm an investor. And I'm cheap. I'm like, I want to save money here. I want to save money here, but I don't save money on the realtors, because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't get top dollar. I wouldn't be on market. We always sell on market. We buy off market. Hence, if you understand, buy low, sell high. Excellent. So the idea is you want to go off market and then you want to go sell it on market. So realtors are the easiest way to do that. So get her contact. If you didn't actually take a screenshot, if you haven't already grabbed her contact, grab a screenshot really quick. Hands scan if you're good. Everybody's got her contact information. Everybody's got Sarah. Hands to the camera if you got the contact. Awesome. Excellent. Good. So if you're new to investing, let us help you start by making money on your first deal. Join the Boston REIA tonight. It's only going to be $3,000. So that $3,000 is going to save you a ton of money. I'm kidding. It's actually $300, less than $300. So when you sign up, you're actually going to get access to a whole bunch of deals. You're going to get access to off-market properties, our off-market list. You're going to get access to some exclusive opportunities, trainings, coachings that only happen for the Boston REIA, as well as obviously thousands of dollars in savings with our affiliate partners. If you haven't already joined a member, become a member of the Boston REIA, you're missing out on a great opportunity. I know people who miss out on great opportunities all the time. They're called my family. And my family has watched me build my empire of real estate investing, and they missed out on opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get into my deals. Now I'm a multimillionaire. I moved away from my family, moved to Tampa, and now I have a wonderful life, and I had to leave a lot of people behind. So it's the same thing with joining the Boston REIA. If you don't see the opportunity, you may one day find that everybody who did see the opportunity, join the membership, have moved on in their lives, making a lot of money, and you're still stuck wondering, why the fuck do I live on my couch and haven't I made my life? And it's a much better life for them instead of me. Hands can if you're tired of letting other people win instead of winning yourself. I mean, I'm all about everybody winning, but I think you should be one of them too. So join the Boston REIA. It's a great opportunity for everybody who is looking for extra information. Here's our newsletter. You go to bostonrealestateinvestorsassociation.com. And for everybody who signs up for the Boston REIA, you're actually going to get that anyway. So when you sign up for the Boston REIA as a member, actually, Duncan, I think we should just eliminate this slide, because when they sign up for the membership, they're going to get all this anyway. So I think we could, maybe next time we just cut the slide out entirely, because we already got their contact information when they registered for the Zoom. So we'll just add, hands care if it's cool if we just add you to the newsletter, if that's fine, if I just add you to it and send you all the new information. Awesome. Yeah, I say we cut this slide next time. Here we go. We've got networking coming up. Who likes live networking? Who's heard that this is a people business? You need to meet people in person in order to become successful. Yeah, real estate's not a property business, it's a people business. The only way to build a business is you get your dirty dozen. Sarah is one of the beautiful dozen, and then you got to get the other 11. So once you get the other 11, now you have a team, and the only way to get that team is to go to networking events. You may need more than 12 people. You may need more than a dozen. You may need a bunch of capital raisers, like people to do capital for you. You maybe need a bunch of wholesalers or realtors to bring you deals. So the only way to get that is through live networking events. There are some coming up in the South Shore. So you get the South Shore Real Estate Investor Association, run by Carla Lee, who is amazing. She really helps a lot of people, and just by putting people into the room. One of the 3 components, remember I said, knowledge, network, accountability. These are the three things that it takes to be a millionaire, to become successful in real estate. Hence, if you're looking to have passive income, you'd like to have $10,000 passive income every month coming in no matter what. That's this one right here, right? Well, that means in order for you to keep 10,000, you have to be earning 30,000. That's how real estate investing works. You get to keep about 1/3 of all the money that you make. In order to do that,
Walter,
you need a network.
sorry,
Yes, Kelly.
I just wanted to interject real quick. South Shore REIA is starting
Yes.
up. Their very first meeting is March 12th, or excuse me,
it's
the
not on the
13th.
slide.
Monday, March 13th. Yes,
That's live in person, right?
in person in Marshall, Massachusetts, at the brewery. There's a brew pub there. I'll be there.
Awesome. Will you be there?
Yeah, I will. Mhm.
Oh, no kidding. Maybe I should fly back. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll think about it.
And Carla's great. Carla Nee with an N. She is awesome, and she's also a realtor. So we're providing people with experience here. So
Let's give
just
Kelly a
wanted to
round of applause.
throw that in.
It's all about the team you surround yourself with, right? So I was saying network knowledge and accountability. And so these live events give you that network. So it's very important. I see. Yes. Good job, Dan. I see you dropped some contact information still in the chat. Now we're leveraging the network a little more than we were originally. Awesome. So All-Star membership, free entrance, monthly events, free entrance to subgroup meetings, the Home Depot 2% rebate programs, exclusive membership benefits, discounted workshops, and much more. When you sign up for the membership, you're also contributing to helping us make sure landlord rules and regulations are fought for at Capitol Hill. When the new legislations are brought out, we take a lot of the money that is donated to the Boston REIA. We send some of that to the national REIA, and the national REIA fights for landlord rights. Hence, if you intend to be a landlord and would like somebody fighting for your rights, but you don't want to go fight for your rights yourself, it'd be nice to have somebody else doing it. That's one of the benefits to investing and building the relationship with the Boston REIA, is we also are a major contributor to the national REIA. And so a lot of the income that comes through the memberships, actually gets put towards helping for landlord rights and making sure that things like the moratorium did get ended. We couldn't prevent it entirely, but we did make sure that eventually it did get ended, and that was big thanks to the National REIA. So let's give the National REIA a big round of applause for all that they do for us as landlords and real estate investors. Without them, we might not even own property anymore, because there's a big group of people out there who would love for people not to own real estate. So learn the sport, be a player, join us tonight. And the membership, actually, Kelly, can you put your phone number? Oh, you already did. So Kelly's phone number is in the chat. If you're interested in joining the Boston REIA and becoming a member, it is under $300. How much is it, Kelly? Is it $299, $297? You're muted. Hold on. You're still muted. Still muted. Totally muted.
Testing.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. It's $280 for single membership and $400 for the couples or partners.
Awesome. So if you're a couple of partner, you get to save us some serious money, because obviously we want you to be successful. We want your partner involved with this. We want your spouse involved with this. Going into real estate investing is something that you don't do alone. We know it's very personal. The family is all taken in with you. So it's really important that they also have access to knowledge to what you're doing. Hence, if you don't want to invest alone, it makes sense to have other people, bring partners in. Excellent. And if you do want to invest alone, you're alone, you're like, you don't trust anybody. All right, good. So the people that scale up are the ones who bring in partners. It really is about trusting others, helping others, and growing together. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my business partners, and I'm very thankful to have them. So send a message to Kelly to learn more. We've got a conference coming up called the Recession-Proof Real Estate Virtual Conference. I'll be sharing what we're doing as investors to remain recession-proof. It's a 2-day virtual event. So if you're interested in learning like how to stay recession-proof in a real estate recession, how to scale your business, how to protect your business, how to grow your business, even what niches to grow in, the Recession-Proof Conference is going to be the place for you. For everybody who signs up tonight, we're going to throw it in for free. We've been selling these tickets for $500, $1,000. And so for everybody who's in the Boston REIA, this is one of those exclusive things that you get access to. So everybody who's already a Boston REIA member, make sure that you've renewed your Boston REIA membership and you get access to this conference for free. For everybody who is not yet a Boston REIA member, you might want to consider it, because this conference will be worth it alone. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do a lot of great valuable things, But I'm biased. I'll be running this conference with me and a bunch of other millionaires, and we're gonna be showing you what actually is working right now in this market. So today is the time to sign up. This happens in April, so we're running out of time. Join the membership, join the REIA, and get access to the conference, get access to all of the other benefits, our sales, our discounts at, I think the next page tells me. Home Depot is the next one we're going to talk about. So who here likes to save money? Hands can if you like to save money. Who knows a penny saved is a penny earned? All right. So Sarah Ibram, if you can share what kind of savings people get, our members get, for being a part of the Boston REIA, and especially sticking to Home Depot. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Walter. All right. I hope you can see my screen. Yes.
We do.
Okay, awesome. If I can. Okay, fantastic. So, good evening, everyone. I just want to start with the market update. I have kept, since kind of like we're early in the year, so I kept January, February, and March. So this way we can take a look and see where the market is heading, even the stock market. The interest rates, the available homes, just Middlesex, Essex, and Suffolk counties, back on the market, contingent and price changes. So that's where we were in January. And then it got a lot better in February. Even with the price changes was almost a half. And for March, price changes are even getting better. So from 25 to now down to 17, the back on the market is pretty much almost similar to last month. Contingent under agreement is a lot less, but how we're still seeing multiple offers. We're still seeing very busy open houses. So buyers are back. If a property is priced right, we see that it sells still within a matter of days. And on the other hand, I also kept this from last month. So they really, interest rates has gone, the lowest it has gone over the past month was 6.09. Unfortunately, it has gone up all this time during this month to be 6.65. This is just the weekly increase. So I've been monitoring that on a weekly basis. So as what happened from last week until today, it went up 15%. But if we go back a whole month, it has gone up, 50, let's say 55, like over a half a point, or 0.5%. And eventually the reason for that is inflation. So there, as I was just saying, open houses are still busy, buyers are still trying to be aggressive in their offers, and the minute a fantastic home comes on the market, they immediately grab it. So we're still seeing bidding war, not as crazy as it was in the pandemic, but it is still, people are, still fighting, and they're still continuing a little bit with that same mentality. And this is directly from Sam Clotter, which is the chief economist of Freddie Mac. These are Freddie Mac's numbers, and they said, that's what he said, as we started the year, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage decreased with expectations of lower economic growth, inflation, and a loosening of monetary policy. However, given sustained economic growth and continued inflation, mortgage rates boomeranged and are inching up towards 7%. So they in the beginning of the year, they kind of were around the 7, they went to the 6, and now they're heading back to the 7. Again, it's because of inflation. My information, if you need help, I'd be more than happy to assist you for residential, commercial, Mass, and New Hampshire. And now I'm very excited to tell you about the wonderful benefits that we offer exclusively for our members in Boston area. So one of the great benefits that we offer, on top of what Walter mentioned, is Home Depot. Any investor would need, all kind of tools to add value to their properties. Fix and flip or buy and hold, you need at least paint, right? So National REIA, Duncan and Kelly with Boston REIA, they negotiated deals only for our members. So they negotiated, so our members, they get 2% rebates biannually on all purchases, but there is a minimum spend of $5,000 per period. What does that mean? So Home Depot has a fixed period, January 1st until June 30th, and then July 1st until the end of the year. And if you spend $5,000 in that 6 months, that's when you start getting the 2% rebate. You get any amount of rebate that's under $1,000, you receive it in the form of a gift card, and 1,000 or more, you receive it in the form of a check. So that's why it's very important that you want to make sure that your mailing address is up to date with Home Depot, because they mail out these rebates within 60 days. So you receive a physical card or a physical check in the mailing address that you included. Also, our members, they started the gold tier. What does that mean? So normally people have to spend $6,500 to get to that gold tier. And after spending that much, they qualify for the 20%. With us, you start immediately at the 20%. Basically, how you do it is that at the checkout, think of it, this is a rewards program. So just think of it as like CVS or Shaw's or Stop and Shop, any program that rewards. So you collect every time you buy something at the checkout, you enter your phone number, it recognizes you, and it gives you like the points or rebates or whatever they have. So same thing. So at the checkout, at the registered, at the pin pad, enter your phone number that you used to sign up with Boston REIA, and then it's going to recognize that you are a Boston REIA member, and it will give you the discount at the checkout, the 20% you get that at the checkout. Now, Home Depot has a program in which you register a credit card or a payment method, let's say a checking account or a gift card or something, and that would be your payment method. So if when you pay with that registered card, you get the 20% at the checkout, and then you get the 2% at the end of the 6 months rebate. The great part about this, it's not only that this is the only way to accumulate the 2%, but you also can track your purchases for up to 24 months. The 20% of paint are applicable to paint, stains, and primer of a gallon or more. It doesn't apply to like quartz or spray, or any of that. Also, our members can get up to 20% off select Hampton Bay kitchen and single transaction. And how it works is that you get 10% from National REIA and 10% from Home Depot. Both are stackable with any other store discounts that's going on at that time. Volume pricing program, or bidroom, is another benefit that you can take advantage of. But how it works is that you need to have a list of large items that is going to cost $1,500. It's very low, like $1,500, like like anything can cost more than that. So which increases your chances of getting actually more discounts. So if you have a list of a large item that's going to cost $1,500 or more, bring it to the pro desk, have them prepare a quote for you, and after that, just have them send it to the bidroom. And that process takes like a few minutes, and then it's going to come back with any applied discounts for up to 15%. And again, if you pay with that registered card or registered payment method, you accumulate the 2%. So you get anywhere up until 15% at the checkout, and then the 2%, you get that at the end of the 6 month cycle. The only thing that I wouldn't send through the bidroom is the paint, because the maximum that you can get with the bidroom is the 15%. Paint, you get 20%, so you get a better deal on the paint being at a gold tier because you're a Boston REIA member. If all that didn't convince you, I think numbers will. So Home Depot, and we update these numbers every cycle. So over the past 6 months, Home Depot paid out to chapter members more than $500,000. Average rebate per member was over $1,500. So if you do the math, like if you're a single member, 280, or or have a partner for 400, in one single period, in 1 6 months period, you can buy membership for years to come. And remember, this is only one of the benefits that you get when you become a Boston REIA member. If you would like to become a member or verify the status of your membership, Kelly is your go-to. That's her number. Feel free to print screen or take a picture. Reach out to her as soon as you sign up. She's gonna send me your information, and I'll reach out to you and we set up a time. It only takes 10 minutes. We do it directly from Home Depot website. But we need first to sign up because we must use the same exact information with Home Depot, so they match. Thank you again, and I hope you have a fantastic meeting.
Let's give Sarah a round of applause. Home Depot is awesome. The discount is awesome. If you're missing out on it, that is 100% your fault. I apologize. So it's not me, it's you. So definitely get access to it. We saved about $1,500 in my company personally this year, just from using our Home Depot discount. Me and my partner have both been members of not just the Boston REIA, but the Rhode Island REIA, and I'm part of the Tampa Bay REIA. I own a lot of different Real Estate Investor Association memberships because it is valuable. Hence, Cam, if you recognize, I believe in the cause. What they're doing is really helpful, and I've made it back just in my Home Depot discounts, and my equity trust one has really helped out. Who here would like to raise capital? Would love to raise capital from other investors? Awesome. Equity trust is fantastic at getting capital into your deals because you can use it by going into their 401ks that are totally locked up and they're not doing anything, and turn them into a self-directed 401k. And you get a nice deal from doing that with Boston REIA. So if you haven't already signed up, make sure that you're a part of the Boston REIA. If you're already spending money as a landlord, get access to the Boston REIA membership so you can save money at Home Depot. And the REIA membership is right on the screen. So text Kelly 864-906-4111. If you don't text Kelly at 864-906-4111, that is on you. If you miss out on the opportunity to save money, that is your problem. We have created the opportunity. I've had a couple people text me and say, hey, why are you doing these commercials? Because if I don't, then you don't know about it. Hence, Cam, if you understand, I got to share that there's an opportunity to save a whole bunch of money. If I didn't do that today, then you wouldn't know about it. So give yourselves a round of applause. If you've already joined the membership, congratulations. For our members, you're awesome. We love you and you're welcome. And so let's dive in. We already did our haves, wants, and needs of that earlier. So we're diving right into the speaker, right on time, by the way. If Alex is here, Alex, just make sure your camera is turned on.
What's up? I'm here.
There he is. God, oh man, I was having a hard time finding you. All right, so if you don't know who Alex is, you're about to. He is bullish on C-class properties, tertiary markets, getting yourself into where the true cash flow is, and he's going to share with you today where everybody else is buying. Do not buy. Buy where everybody is afraid to buy, so that you can move into an opportunity that's actually going to cash flow for you. Let's give it up for Alex Kwiakala. One more round of applause for him.
That's spot.
You just gonna tell me how to spell it, how to say it.
Nope, that was perfect.
Awesome. One more round of applause for Alex. And if you haven't had your cameras turned on, now's the time to turn them on. Alex is a very interactive speaker, and so it really helps to have your cameras turned on so he can get the most out of what he's teaching today. Hands to the camera if you are ready to learn. Awesome. All right, Alex, they're all yours, brother. Cheers.
Walter, I also have my partner Harrison Bonner on here, who's going to he's going to share his screen, and we're going to tag team this. Can you hear me here?
Done.
Beautiful. And happy birthday. I heard you just turned 21.
That's right, brother. 21 going on 37.
Nice. Now we can go. I still have to sneak in, but now we can go get beers.
Let's go.
And Duncan, this is kind of cool. You were the first ever REIA that I ever went to, and that was in the summer of 2015. That's when Bill and Dwan were in town, and I signed up. I think it was like July, and we never looked back. So it's fun to be, that was like 7 years ago, and it's fun to be back.
Awesome, Alex.
Cool. So I'm Alex. I am a founder of Wollaston Real Estate Investments. My partner, Harrison Bonner, wherever he is, he's about to share his screen in a moment. We started Wollaston Real Estate Investments in 2018. We actually, we became friends through college. We both went to universities down south. So both of us are Southern boys, and we started working in real estate. Brockton, actually, the city of champions, is where we kind of started to cut our teeth. And yeah, we had another partner at that time. We realized that we were really good at losing money. He quit, the other partner quit, and Harrison and I rebranded, rebuilt, and essentially, we're excited to share a little bit of our history that we've had together, from essentially day one, knowing absolutely nothing about this industry, to having a $28 million portfolio that we actively own and are building. So yeah, I think we're up to 15 or 16 buildings, and it's little by little, step by step. And we're excited to kind of share with you some of our growing pains, some of the areas that we're targeting, and essentially how we progress there. So Harrison, how am I doing? Am I off to a good start?
You're doing great. I think I'm the one lagging behind a little bit with some slow computer issues, but we're working on that one as well. Introduce myself quickly. I'm Harrison. I'm Alex's worst half in the business, and God's here. You're making us sound like geniuses, because literally no one is buying where we're buying. Thank you for that. Well, some people have started catching on, but we'll take the credit for starting the trend. So we put on some webinars. So I apologize. We're going to sort of we're going to leverage our webinar presentation as well. So just pretend you're in one. But this should flow relatively similarly. And yeah, I'll do my best to move the slideshow along, and I'll let Alex do most of the talking. He's got a much prettier voice than I do. So
I am a tenor, no doubt. That's so gross. Yeah, so we're going to essentially discuss how we're building wealth in emerging secondary markets. We're going to discuss Holyoke and Springfield a lot. Like any other real estate guy who's giving advice, there's a disclaimer. Don't take what I say as gold. Consult with an attorney. Go find one. Ta-da. All right.
How am I doing on this slideshow? I'm out of the slideshow.
Yep. That's okay. Perfect. So yeah, this is a photo of Harrison, myself. Look at Harrison's long locks of hair. And then we had another original business partner. His name was Christian. And that is St. Patrick's Day weekend, 2016. We were door knocking. We were finding people that were in pre-foreclosure, and we were knocking on their doors and saying, hey, we understand you have a property problem. Are you interested in trying to get out of it? One of those is, potentially selling your house. And this was a building, a single family home that we actually negotiated as the buyer. It was a short sale. They owed about $400,000 on this house, which had caught on fire because they fell asleep smoking, allegedly. And yeah, they owed $400,000 on it, and we ended up actually negotiating a contract price to buy this building for $91,000. That was our first ever deal, and in 6 months we sold it for $350,000. made a great profit, and we will absolutely consider this building a blessing and a curse, because boy, did it make us feel like we were rock stars day one. And then boy, did East Boston sober us. But that's okay. So we've been doing this, I guess between the two of us now, we're at about 14 years of collective real estate business together. However, we've been working together for a couple years longer than that. And, as we've grown as, young, hungry entrepreneurs, we've worked to optimize and grow our individual roles. We each do different things within our organization that we feel fit our personal abilities. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And we're excited to enter communities where you're buying the ugliest building on the block, or maybe you're buying the ugliest block and then you're transforming it. We've got some pretty large aspirations. We want to change the city skyline. So we're continuing to push ourselves and essentially grow the developments that we do. But this was number one. This was Nicholson Drive in Brockton, Massachusetts. By the way, Harrison, that building now, they say it's worth like $545,000 according to Zillow. Not that I looked, but yeah.
Good for the buyers.
Yep. We had 105 people come to that open house. It was amazing. So we're regular guys, just like everybody else. We like cars, dancing, music. I grew up playing ice hockey. Now I skate in a beer league. It's a little embarrassing. I am working to kite surf, not doing a very good job. And Harrison, what's new in your life? What are you doing?
I get to go. Well, I've got skiing on here as an interest, which is kind of a lie, since I haven't been in 4 years. But on Saturday, I get to go for the first time in 4 years, and we're getting snow Friday night, so I'm super excited about that. And I love to hike and cook, and I'm a 6'2" guy that likes to do yoga, so it's kind of weird.
You're gonna get to the bottom of that hill one way or another. He's a pretty good skier. So yeah, we got started in 2018. Here's a handful of kind of like key points. We've actually paid out a little bit more, but we've paid over $3.6 million in investor dividends to our private investors. We're essentially the poster kids of doing this business with none of your own money. I raised money for this FHA house I'm sitting in. We've literally never not raised money for a deal. And you can do this business by leveraging other people's capital. That's why Walter said it makes the most millionaires, because it's really the only industry where you can leverage outside capital to grow your worth, which is exciting. We have done over 20 projects in the state of Massachusetts, $40 million in total asset value across what we've done in the past versus what we're building now. A good bit of private equity with an average rate of return of 13.4%. Now we actually went the full legit SEC legal route. So now we have a fund where we offer 15% to investors. We'll talk about that and how we built it and why we started. And I guess 18 million or so in project sales. Yeah, so as of right now, we're sitting at a little over $15 million in our current portfolio value. That's across 16 buildings. What we tend to do is buy really dilapidated, beat up apartment buildings. We try to buy ones that need everything. So if we can get them vacant, even better. So we've got a handful of, about 75 occupied rental units, and we've got 65 units right behind it in different stages of development. And that portfolio, we've actually added a building since this slide was made. That portfolio value is somewhere around $28 million, which is incredible and humbling and awesome to say. And we literally built it through COVID. So pretty much almost every single project that we own and we talk about is within 3 to 3.5 years old. So it takes a lot of work to get to this level of confidence to make those kind of moves. But if you stay committed to the cause and you keep working, you can make some damage in a short period of time. So we're excited to share our experiences and then ultimately, answer any questions. One of our most exciting projects that we're working on right now is actually it's the JW Pru. We have the first Prudential building of Massachusetts. It's in downtown Holyoke. It's about 33,000 square feet, 8 stories for a total of about 100 feet tall. And it's got a beautiful facade. Harrison, is that on the next, is that picture on the next slide?
I believe it is. Yeah, let me skip forward here. Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah. So like I said, we're working, we want to build a tower. So the only way you do that is you just keep growing and testing how big your balls are, and by getting into bigger and larger projects that are a little bit scarier. This building, if you can believe it, to the left is City Hall in downtown Holyoke, a community right next to Springfield that has about 45,000 people. We bought this 33,000 square foot building for $475,000, and it had been vacant for quite a while. I remember Harrison and I looked at this building 3 years ago and we were like, there's no way we're ready for that. And when we were ready for it, it was still for sale, and we got lucky enough to buy it. And the value has went up since then. This is a project that we've been working on for the last 2 years, just for tax credit financing. So learning new skill sets is all, we're all here to learn new things. This building, we're doing something we've never done before. So we're about $30,000 deep so far in architectural plans and legal fees, but through the historic tax credit process, we hope to free up approximately $3.5 million worth of financing for this project. $3.5 million against the renovation budget will go a long way, and is actually the only way that makes this deal possible and profitable. But this is our baby currently, and yeah, we just had a meeting on that. Architectural window details are very important to the historical committee, it appears.
And something I just wanted to add, which you guys are probably picking up on, is that entire multifamily portfolio from the slide before that we've grown now has been all in one market. So guys, here you're talking about how you invest in multifamily buildings in Fall River, Massachusetts. We've honed in on the Holyoke market, and we felt like we were one of the first investors that we knew of, at least, really diving headfirst into that market. So, being able to grow a $25 million portfolio just in Holyoke has been pretty cool. And we picked up the tallest building downtown. So, yeah.
We do have a little bit of love in Springfield, 10 minutes away. We do have 2 buildings there. This is, ironically enough, this is actually the same architect. I don't know if you knew that, Harrison. This is our first building that we ever bought. A little bit of backstory behind this. Harrison and I were coming off of a really rough 2 years where we got essentially our asses handed to us by contractors and ignorance. We lost money we didn't have, and we were in a really humble spot as a company. And we realized that if we are going to continue to do development, and we knew we had to get out of this hole, right? We owed people money. We weren't going to declare bankruptcy. That wasn't an option. But we realized if we're going to work for another 2 years on more projects to try to pay people back, we need something that's going to actually give us some monthly income. So being at, starting essentially from ground zero, we were looking at where will our dollar go the farthest. And we had some experience with construction management, or we were building a new construction management company. So we wanted something a little bit lower leverage. Essentially, if you made a mistake, it wouldn't cost as much, right? So we found this 13-unit project in, there you go. We found this 13-unit project in Holyoke, right across the street from the park. And it was for sale for $360,000. And we were like, all right, we can do this. And we looked up what Section 8 rents were. And we were like, all right, we think we can make this building worth $1 million. Well, fast forward 18 months, we put about $425,000 into renovating the building. And then we got an appraisal, and it was worth $1.64 million. So something that we spent, collectively $750,000 on was now worth more than double that. And when we saw those numbers, we saw the appraisal come back, we said, oh my gosh, maybe we need to shift our market. not only was that building worth approximately, 800,000 plus of equity, that building also revenued close to $180,000. So after all expenses were paid, that building was actually feeding a lot of our development projects. And then over the last year or so, we realized, hey, this condo market, it's not for us anymore. It's very high leverage. You don't make money for a long time. We want to make money in a short time. So we actually decided to sell everything because of how successful and influential this first project was. Harrison, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. This is 181 High Street. This is another 6-unit building that we picked up for $225,000. It's actually our 6th unit is the smallest building that we have in the marketplace. We are sandwiched between an entrepreneur. How would you describe E4All, Alex? It's like a mentorship program for entrepreneurs in the Holyoke area, which is really cool, and the Holyoke Chamber of Commerce on the other side. And we've since painted the front because we're going to be putting our future real estate office on the first floor. But it used to be was the J.A. Tabor building.
Yeah. Yep.
We find the downtown architecture in downtown Holyoke just be really fascinating, just so detailed. Alex knows a bit more about the history of Holyoke, but I do know that in the early 1900s, the city of Holyoke, all the paper mills in Holyoke, milled about 90 to 95% of all of the paper produced in the entire country. It used to be an incredibly wealthy city. All of the buildings downtown, that building on the last slide, 859 Main Street, it's got tile stamped in the entry foyer. It says 1910, the year the building was built. I'm not sure about the Tabor building here, but they're all around that early 20th century construction and architecture. So when people come to downtown Holyoke, they, if you know Holyoke from, if you've lived in Massachusetts, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you may not think much of it, but when people come in that are maybe just seeing this downtown area for the first time, sort of how we were coming in with fresh eyes. We didn't really know much about the recent history of Holyoke. We really said, wow, there's really a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of beautiful architecture. There's got to be something. There's got to be an opportunity here.
Absolutely, yeah. Holyoke used to in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they were producing 300 tons of paper a day. So they were feeding all of America's paper needs. And in that time frame, they also had the most millionaires per capita in the entire world. So Holyoke was so wealthy, which is why it has all of these beautiful ornamental facades that honestly rival, most of Back Bay at downtown Boston architecture. But there's more opportunity there. So that's, you won't really find anything in Back Bay that looks quite like that as it sits, but that's where the opportunity is. So our investment strategy is relatively simple. We're looking at secondary and emerging markets, areas that people are a little more afraid to maybe enter, or areas that are going to require you to roll up your sleeves and do a lot more work. Harrison is a licensed CSL holder. So since he has his construction supervisor's license, that means that we can pull all of our own permits. We've got our own workman comp, we've got our own general liability, and we've got this sister arm construction company. So with that level of control, it lets us streamline different parts of our management, as well as control prices. There's a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no fees, right, when you're doing the managing yourself. So yeah, these secondary markets, they tend to be higher cash flowing markets, right? You're going to get more money per your dollar out in that type of market, but you are going to have to work for it, right? Market knowledge. One of the great things about real estate is knowing as much as you can, obviously, is going to get you farther, but there's some relatively simple baseline metrics that you can look at to understand a market and analyze a deal relatively quickly. The more you get involved, the more you're going to learn about the market, obviously the better for you. But when we were purchasing 859 Main Street, we were saying to ourselves, all right, we're buying this thing for what? $360,000, 13 units. That's not very much money per unit. How can you lose, right? You can lose, for the record. But at that point, we didn't realize that. We're thinking, how can you lose? We knew what our prices were going to be, but we're like, how do we, what's rent out there? We're seeing rents anywhere from $600 to $1,000. And then we realized that you can actually just look up what the Housing Authority guaranteed Section 8 rents are. And we said to ourselves, might as well put some guaranteed rental income in this building. So we were immediately from day one able to figure out what is our maximum allowable rental income through the Housing Authority. And we were able to essentially reverse engineer our deal. And we still use that very much so, even when we're analyzing new deals today, especially if we're looking in a different market. Always starting with income. We're big fans of cash flow. As someone who's understood being over leveraged with projects that don't provide capital, we're always looking for things that are going to create capital as quickly as possible and ultimately feed our other businesses organically. That's a really nice position to be in when you can organically grow your company instead of just having to raise outside capital. Granted, I'll take every dollar you can give me, but that is part of our strategy. And then overall market presence, it's a bit easier. It's a bit easier to have an influence locally, politically in your community if you have more than one project. So if you hyper focus in a certain area, neighborhood, zip code, essentially you're going to get more bang for your buck in terms of an effort perspective. We're changing rough neighborhoods in Holyoke and South Holyoke. And part of the reason we're able to do that is because we actually own a city block. So when you own a city block, you get to change the culture that happens on that block. If you got bad drug stuff, go do it on that block, but not on my block where I have cameras and lights everywhere. So yeah, our investment strategy is simple, hyper-focused, focusing on secondary markets that have high cash flow, and then we'll worry about the equity after that.
And I think that's something that we have really, I guess, matured into as real estate investors in our first couple of years. I remember in year 2, Alex, we went from 1 project to 7 projects, and we had projects from Newburyport all the way down to Hanson, which is a little town near Hanover down on the South Shore. So if you can imagine trying to do site visits, 7 different site visits in a day, from one side of the state on the other, up and down 93 and 95 and Route 3. It was kind of a nightmare. So we were just sort of willing to chase anything and everything at that point, not really realizing how we were hurting ourselves and that we were spreading ourselves too thin. Whereas now we're 6-7 years later, and we said, no, we can hyper focus and we can become really, really good in one market on one type of investment strategy. And we can, we can really put all of our time and effort and experience into growing and dominating this. And, we've been able to turn that and, from a losing portfolio 6 years ago to, and having no idea what we were doing to, now a $25 million portfolio and feeling really confident in just absolutely crushing one market.
Nice. Cool. So a couple of reasons why these markets work. And I'm sure a handful of you guys have seen just how crazy the market is getting. Like if you've looked at Worcester, you're aware Worcester is way more expensive today than it was just 4 years ago. People are getting priced out, and we're seeing that even come all the way over to Holyoke and definitely Springfield. So these increased investments in secondary markets across the country has led to cap rate compressions between primary markets like Boston, right, where your highest value, lowest cash on cash return, right, like a blue chip stock, compared to a riskier investment, or even dare say it for the point of understanding the analogy, comparing a blue chip stock to a penny stock, right? You're going to get a higher bang for your buck on that penny stock if it hits. But what we've seen is that the cap rate valuations are getting closer and closer and closer than they've ever been. Downtown Boston, a building might trade at a 3 cap, right? That means if you bought the building 100% cash, you could expect to make 3% on your investment. 5 years ago, Holyoke was a 10, 12 cap neighborhood. If you bought it with cash, you can make 10% on your money. We're now getting valuations in the 6 cap range, which is driving the value of our building very, very high. So cap rate compression between primary and secondary markets is really the closest that I believe it's ever been in kind of the history, at least for a long time, longer than we've been in real estate. Maybe Duncan will jump in here and share some more knowledge on that. But Section 8 approved rents sometimes are as often as high as the market rate. Sometimes they're higher than the market rate, depending on the neighborhood you're in. A couple years ago, we were in the ghetto of Brockton, and we were getting $1,950 for 3-bedroom apartments when the market wouldn't approve more than $1,600, but we were getting more through Section 8. So Section 8 can be a really valuable tool, especially if you're working in a rougher neighborhood. And then for us, we're bigger fish in a smaller pond. At this point, it's nice that since the community is small, I know the mayor, I know the head of economic development. I've had drinks with a handful of the city councilors on a weekly basis. When you start to build those types of relationships and those people become a bit more accessible, opportunities and doors open for you. And then obviously it's less expensive, so you can acquire more units. And there's something to be said about, not putting all of your eggs in just a couple units. If you buy a 3-family in this market and one tenant stops paying rent, you are underwater. You are coming out of pocket to pay your mortgage, most likely, if you're anywhere close to Boston. But if you buy 10 units in Holyoke, for us, it takes about 4.5 to 5 tenants on average before we can't make our basic expenses. So that's a luxurious position to be in from a cash flow perspective. All right. Harrison, you're up.
All right. We sort of hinted on this a little earlier, but some of the things that we feel really make us unique as an organization is that CSL license that Alex mentioned. I guess that was one of the benefits of us really getting burned by a general contractor. As I'm sure anyone who's ever invested in real estate has gotten burned by some contractor one way or another. And for us at the time, it was so bad that we said, okay, well, we'll never work with another general contractor again. And lo and behold, we haven't. And so I went and got my CSL license, and we've self-managed all of our construction and development and maintenance and everything. And while that's been a lot of work, that I think a lot of people, including us, get into real estate investing and investing for the idea of freedom. It created a lot of work for us, but in the end, it really has paid off. And I can't complain about working too hard at 27. I don't think that'd be fair. So the experience and knowledge that I was able to gain, sort of being exposed to construction and subcontractors and just everything that goes into a construction project on a daily basis, has really helped put us in a good position now as we try to grow our property maintenance and property management sort of divisions of our own company. We really have a good perspective of how those operations should run, and we can really build them from the inside out rather than the outside in. And then we've also internalized all of our property management systems by utilizing virtual assistants, which if you guys aren't using virtual assistants in your business, you absolutely should be. We have a team of 2 virtual assistants that help us with tenant management, rent collection, just taking all incoming phone calls from, we've got 75 tenants and C-class real estate in Holyoke. So you can imagine we probably get a lot of phone calls with a lot of deferred maintenance on our buildings we're trying to catch up on. So Alex almost, he probably still takes a couple, but in the early days, with even 20 tenants, he was getting way more phone calls than he gets now. That we've built out the system with our virtual assistant and our sort of self-built property management software through Smart Sheets. We have another virtual assistant that helps us with some admin work and filings, and really just takes the load off of the organization piece of the business for us. So building out the property management and the maintenance and all components of that sort of vertical integration of the multifamily real estate investing has really been to our a challenge as far as all the work that was created, but we really believe is ultimately going to be to our benefit as we continue to grow and scale our company. See where we go.
And something else I think would be good to touch on is, I'm sure a handful of people in this call or this Zoom are relatively new, or they've maybe only done a couple deals. Just because maybe you're doing this part-time, that's fine. But just because you don't have a construction supervisor's license, or maybe you don't want to run a management company, God knows I would understand maybe why you wouldn't want to, doesn't mean, especially in the beginning, you shouldn't roll your sleeves up and learn as much as you absolutely can. Because when you are naive, you will lose money. You should know enough to be dangerous. If you want to invest truly passively and you don't want to work and you're just like, I don't have time for that, give it to me. I'll put it in a fund. I'll give you 15%. But if you're one of those guys who's like, I can make more with my $100,000, cool. Roll your sleeves up, put in the work, learn the business. If you are present, your mistakes will be a lot less expensive. It's when you let the mistakes compound because you're not there and you're not being present, you can get in some really hot water. So I just wanted to drop that. Yeah. Okay. So we already talked about this.
Over this a little bit. We kind of hinted at this sort of, or explained this in the beginning, but this is the one that really got us addicted. Really got us addicted to Holyoke.
Yeah. I bought it for $365, spent $400-ish. I think it was closer to $425. We're doing $15,000 a month in rental income, and we just saw an incredible increase in value. And more than, that was really that was a light bulb moment for us, because how you've always heard buy real estate and wait. And this was buy real estate and force appreciation. You're just cramming equity down the throat of your project until it's where you want it to be. And from there, we after we got that appraisal, we decided to literally sell everything we have in Boston. Half of them weren't even done being built.
Hey, Alex, maybe you could give us a little bit more insight into how you found it, how you came up with the money for it. $400,000 is a lot of money for improvements, especially if you're raising it. And then what was the entire process to go through? Because a lot of people just starting out, there seems to be like a lot of steps you got to know. So, it's a matter of, let's start with maybe a 4 or 6, 8 unit property before we work up to those big ones. But maybe you can give a little bit more insight what went on behind the scenes on this.
Sure. Great question. Yeah. And feel free to jump in, Duncan. And I love, if I'm going too far, forward, I'm glad to reel me back. So great question. So we actually found this on, it was either on LoopNet, where deals go to die, or it was on MLS. I can't remember, but it was actively being published to the world. And so I think when we got it, it had like 5 or 6 pages of code violations from the Board of Health and Building Department. And they were like, just letting you know, that's why this thing is so cheap. And we were like, okay, we got this. So we found it on MLS. We've actually found most of our deals on MLS. Don't let people tell you that they're not out there. There's plenty of deals on MLS. Even most of our condominium development projects have been acquired through MLS. So sometimes you just kind of need to refine maybe what you're going to look for, what excites you, and then work to target that. We purchased this building with hard money. So we bought it with, I think it was essentially about 25%, 25 or 30% of the acquisition price. So for $365,000, 25% of that, let's see, let's do some quick math here. 365 times 0.25. So we had to come up with about $91,000 to acquire this property. The hard money lender was going to provide 100% of the renovations. So we had to raise $91,000 plus closing costs and points. So we did that by good old fashioned networking. We got in front of groups. We put together deal pro formas. We sent them to everybody that we knew, and then we just hustled. And then we got 2 or 3 investors to essentially finance this project for us. We raised about $150,000, and let's call it 110 to close, and then we had about $40,000 worth of cash flow that we could use to finance the construction. After we spent $40,000, the bank would come out, they would do an inspection, and they would reimburse our $40,000. So hard money loans are a great way to get into real estate projects that maybe might not be financeable by a regular bank. Or if you're a newer investor that doesn't have a ton of cash, maybe you don't have great credit, or you don't have a ton of experience, hard money lenders are typically the way you want to go, because they're your foot in the door to acquire the property. And then from there, you can either sell it, or once the building's in really pretty shape, then it's something that a traditional bank will be more interested in financing. So if you want to keep the building, you can then work to get a new loan with Bank of America or Chase or something like that. Yeah, great question.
Awesome. Alex, I just want to state, to the people in the call, is in the members area, we have quite a few hard money lenders that all have different requirements. Not all hard money lenders are the same, but in Boston, there's some that require you to have a lot more experience, or who's sponsoring you in a deal, or, coming up with a different percentage wise. But, you need to, I always tell people, just go out and talk to people about money. And once you have a confidence level of, hey, I got the money, you'll start making offers. So, know what you can do by just talking to people really before you get going. So, what you're, up against.
Nice. Yeah, but hard money lenders are amazing. And if you can, try to, talk to some referrals, see if you, can, if some friends or family have used them and have said good things, try to get an introduction. But hard money lenders are essentially how we built our entire business. Because when you're younger, you don't have a ton of experience, you don't have the money or the credit, this is how you get your foot in the door. Yeah. All right, Harrison, next one. I think you skipped Springfield. Don't skip Springfield, even though some days you want to. So this building right here. So this building. This building gave me the 9 most stressful months of my entire life. This was a level of due diligence I did not know I didn't know. I went to look at these buildings. They were on MLS, $800,000, $900,000 for 16 units, all 3 bedrooms. So 55 grand a unit per 3-bedroom unit. I was like, all right, this looks like, a challenging neighborhood, but I'm working in Brockton. I got this. That's fine. It's just normal people that need some love. And then I found out that the head of Springfield Narcotics said, are you aware you purchased 2 of the worst traffic buildings in all of Springfield? Like, you are literally top 4 worst buildings in Springfield. And I was like, no, I had no idea. I just thought it was a little ugly. He's like, no. So this building was, this building makes me laugh, like it's nervous laughter. So we had everything you could imagine going on at this building. Whatever you wanted, you could get it. We had gangs that had deadbolts on the insides of the doors. They would control who comes in and out of the building. Tenants had to go through the back porch if they weren't part of the problem. Shootings all the time, needles everywhere. 8-year-olds carrying the firearms of the dealers on the street. Toy chests that held arsenals of rifles, you know, cutting my fire alarms 3 times in a month. Like, who cuts fire alarms? Like, watching this little white guy run up and down the street in pink shorts yelling at drug dealers about why they're cutting my fire alarms. We worked really, you know, we worked to get as many of the bad tenants out. We revamped the security of the building essentially within 24 hours. So all in one swoop, you got enough lighting to land a Boeing. You've got key fob door access, so we know exactly who is opening and closing the doors. We know if the doors open for longer than 30 seconds at a time, and then 16 cameras throughout the buildings. That, and with a lot of communication with my mayor, my selectmen, the local PD, and the narcotics department, and it was a real team effort to get this building to where it is now. We spent about $500,000 on improvements across a handful of units. We're still working there. It's you know, these are buildings that have not been given love for a long time. So, you know, one of the things with C-class real estate, unless it's brand new, you're just going to spend more on repairs and maintenance. It's something you truly have to budget for. It is what it is. It's not your fault. You can't take it personal. It's just the name of the game. But, you know, this building is generating over $250,000 a year for us. And we did a refinance on this project last year because it appraised at over $2.3 million. So well worth the headache. And, you know, this year we hope to really transform the facade of these buildings into something a bit more beautiful. We've worked with a handful of nonprofits. We've done a handful of public art installations and murals across our buildings, which have transformed how the community feels about the real estate and their neighborhood. They tend not to vandalize buildings with murals on them, especially if the artists are from their community. So this building will be getting some art installations this summer for sure. We're very excited for the after photos. I don't even think this building's on the portfolio page, Harrison, because we don't have a good photo of it.
Hey, Alex, this is out of curiosity. You know, when you start talking to the mayor, councilman, the police department, you know, how was that process? Was it scary? Is it easy to do? I know you came into the REIA years ago and you had a zoning question. We're trying to get hold of Barry, who has, how do you, how did you start getting in touch with these people? How did you put that sort of plan together that's what you needed?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was just, I was going on city websites and essentially getting every single email in the police department and CCing them when I was emailing the narcotics guy. So even though I just wanted to talk to one particular officer, 20 or 30 more heard about it. So I got on people's radars really quickly. All these public officials, it's, they're public officials. So they're typically accessible, and the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. So just because it took me more than one time to reach out to them, they heard from me 5-10 times, and eventually one thing we've noticed in especially rough neighborhoods, and these two buildings were by far arguably two of our worst, our two worst buildings. People in these communities tend not to want to rat on each other. They don't want to tell because they're afraid of the consequences inside the neighborhood. But when you're not from the neighborhood and you've got some ignorance and you've got some confidence, I reported everything. So once the police were there 4 times in 1 week on 4 separate vandalism calls, these reports, they get run up the line, and then more presence. They bring more presence to the neighborhood because you're calling them more. If you're not calling them more, they're not going to realize just how bad your situation is. So we communicate really effectively with local law enforcement, and we do the same thing in Holyoke too. We do the same thing in Holyoke. Yeah.
So, hey, so, we bought on you for, C-class properties, and you already said one statement that was interesting in regards to finding deals, which is, LoopNet is where deals go to die. It's about networking. The other statement I've heard is, and like I say, you guys are working hard, and sometimes life is too short to own a C-class property. So sometimes it's better to just to invest in other people's working in that area. So, I think you guys went through a reevaluation of what you wanted in life and how much willing you are to work to get to that point. Would you say that you're, to only stay in C-class buildings, because they are cash cows, but they do require work and money to, put in?
Yeah, so great question. And I think how we've kind of approached it now is working with, like old mill building projects. If you get to start with a fresh slate, if you can, if we could have bought these buildings, 16 units, and they were completely empty, and we could have went through, we could have redone all the plumbing, all the stacks, new electrical, new windows, roofs. If we could have done everything from the start, then it's just regular repairs and maintenance. Maybe you're chasing, you're always going to chase rent. I know luxury buy and hold owners, they still chase rent. So you're always going to chase rent. And now what we've done is we just don't buy occupied property anymore. Or if we are going to buy occupied property and we haven't done it yet, we will build into the budget to house them somewhere else temporarily while we renovate the entire building. So that is, we haven't done it yet. We're not, writing it off that it won't ever happen. But yeah, life is too short to do more projects like this building. And for that reason alone, we're just buying vacant stuff now.
Yeah. So just let me ask you, on a property like this, what sort of eviction rate, what sort of non-payment rate are you coming up with? Like you said, tons of properties always chasing rent. I thought I would never have it. Nightmares galore. That's why I love property management companies. It's just take that hassle away. So what sort of eviction rate or occupancy rate can you expect dealing with C-class?
Yeah, so a really great question. And I think a bit of that comes down to your management style. I am actually doing my first wave of really evictions now ever since 3 years. A lot of times if someone's living in your building and they're doing something they're not supposed to do, by you just being present and getting eyes and attention in their area, they're just going to move because that's the path of least resistance. We were able to collect essentially 100% of our rents through COVID, which was wonderful, but it came with kind of a blessing and a curse. There's a handful of nonprofits that are available to tenants in distress. And some of you may have heard of organizations like Wayfinders and Raft. Raft, essentially, if a tenant had some type of short-term income loss, like because of a pandemic, we were so well funded as a state, Raft would just go ahead and you'd fill out an application. The landlord would say, this is how much money you owe. And then Wayfinders would just go ahead and automatically deposit a check right to your bank account. And that was beautiful. And it was honestly, it was a lifesaver, because if we couldn't maintain rents, who knows where we would be today. What we've experienced now that the moratorium is up, now that the world is trying to get back, the state is still extremely well funded when it comes to short-term tenant rental assistance. That now we're seeing a change in culture to where now everyone's just trying to play the system. And Wayfinders made it frustrating because before you could be 31 days late and they would process an application. Now you need to be 90 days late. Now you need now you need 3 months. So what we've experienced, and this has been across a handful of projects, and it really is a pain in the ass, is tenants will deliberately go 90 days late because they know that Raft will pay their rent and it'll take less time to get the payment made than it will to evict them. So we're working to essentially change our culture now in our buildings. So we're doing our first wave of evictions, and everybody applied for Raft once they got their formal eviction notices. We're still bringing them to court, put them on record, because eventually those Raft and Wayfinder subsidies, they'll reach their limit for the year. There's only a finite amount of money that they're allowed to take. And once we've got the eviction processes started, we'll be able to swiftly remove them when that time comes. So yeah, we have not been very bullish on the eviction thing over the last 3 years. I would say that's a much more new tactic for us, and strictly from a purpose of trying to change the culture in our buildings. Yeah.
So let me ask you, so, you mentioned about using Section 8 a lot. Are there still a lot of vouchers available out there, or you're not getting the money you want from Section 8?
Yeah, another great question. So Wayfinders housing assistance is a temporary form of tenant support. It is not one and the same with Section 8. If someone has a Section 8 housing authority voucher, essentially means that they're going to continue to have the housing authority pay for a majority of their rent. Wayfinders was really used a lot more for tenants that were strictly market rate, right? If they were paying 100% of their $1,300 a month rent, and then they found 2 months behind, for them to get out of a $2,600 hole is a lot harder than the Section 8 housing voucher who only pays $200 a month and is 2 months behind. The $400 is a lot easier to make up.
Right.
So Wayfinders is available to them. We've worked with a handful of local initiatives, and essentially from our experiences, Duncan, now, unless they are an A-grade applicant, we're very inclined to just go permanent housing assistance vouchers because it's somewhat recession proof. I'd much rather chase 20% of the rent, even if it takes me 90 to 120 days to get it, than to chase 100% of the rent and let it go 90 to 120 days.
And how close right now in the market that you're in is the Section 8 voucher to market rent?
In some cases it's higher. We're getting, for this building in Springfield right now, we can get $1,450 for the 3-bed. So there are definitely higher market rate buildings, higher amenity buildings that are getting more. But when you compare the rents to, older housing stock like this, the housing authority vouchers are really neck and neck with what the actual market rate is charging.
And are you finding now that you're doing these repairs and they're meeting Section 8 requirements, that people are taking better care of the property, or not really?
No, not necessarily. And part of that is, with our management structure, is just, if you're going to work in C-class real estate, you need to, I don't want to speak for everybody because there's plenty of tenants that we have that are just normal, good, hardworking people. But if you're taking on a challenging building, you need to be a lot more documented, and you need to be better at their game than they are.
Well, let me ask you this then. I love virtual assistants. Believe me, I use them all the time. But there is, as at some point, and I'm curious where you're growing your business, would you have an on-site property manager just to deal with all the crap?
Oh, we are on-site hardcore. So we've got 6 guys currently living in a handful of our apartments that are working for us full time. So if something happens, there's people working at different buildings already, which makes the active repairs and maintenance management that much better. I'm also very, I try to be very present. Harrison was there today. He's on site. He's present. So by no means are we in our business model doing this passively.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things to hit on with the, dealing with some of the, tenant issues that may come with properties like these, that culture change that Alex is referencing, is a lot of it is really just leftover bad culture and bad tenants that we inherited when we took on the challenging property in the beginning. That's, one of the things that's really driven us to now the new building we just bought. It's not livable anyway, but even if it was, we wouldn't have acquired it. I guess the past two, 390 Main Street, Alex, that one was fully renovated and completely unoccupied. So we have the ability to come in and put all of our own tenants in from day one, and we're not really inheriting anyone else's mess. We're not inheriting occupied apartments that have been neglected and not worked on or repaired for 20 years.
Right.
I don't even really pretend to know how whoever owned the property before us or before them let it get to the condition that, like this particular building in Springfield had gotten to by the time it got to us, because I know the time and effort and money that we put into continually repairing and improving these. But we're still, it's just been neglected for so long. We're still dealing with sort of the remnants of the past landlords not making any repairs, of the tenants that they put in place and then forgot about. I'm not really sure how they were making any money, or maybe they just own this to take a loss. But obviously we got into this to improve the community, improve the buildings, and turn these into a win. So yeah, it's just a matter of, it's brick by brick, I guess, to say,
So,
and
Harrison, just in regards to tenants, and let's just talk very briefly about tenant screening processes, because for me, that was an issue in my business. I trust everybody, and then he screwed me. And then, it's like, you got a tenant not paying rent, evictions, and, they will take advantage of the system. Gaming the system is huge out there. 100% agree with you. So would you say you have a different tenant screening process when you're doing Section 8 versus retail, or is it the same for everybody? Can you tell us how far process you dig in? Fair housing laws are getting ridiculous, what you can approve and what you can't, who you can't have anymore. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm kind of with you, Duncan. I like to take people at their word and give them a shot. I really don't do that anymore, because once you're inside the apartment, it's just you're buckled in for a 4 to 6 month headache no matter what. So yeah, we're going through all of the typical standard questions. We're getting and we're definitely more selective now, even if we go with a housing voucher applicant or we go with a market rate applicant. So all the regular stuff from proving income, 2 years of rental history. We're looking for legitimate landlord references. We're looking for legitimate employer references. And for the most part, a lot of the people, the biggest sticking point for us, the challenge that we've had is when we've gone the market rate renters, is that 2 weeks ago, before they moved in, the rental income was truly 35% of their monthly income. And I verified, and then something happens. And then in 30 to 45 days after, there's a massive amount of income that's no longer there. And I just don't get it. They got fired. Something happened. And it's like, oh, this is frustrating. And then automatically they're back on the raft train, and they're trying to, they're whatever their situation is, or they're approving it. And I tend to believe
I hear you right there with you. I'm like, what the hell?
So that's why we're, if we're going for market rate, they've just got to have, we're going to probably go to their jobs, especially if they're local. I've lived there now. I'll go visit them. Let me see you. Let me see your I'll go meet your landlord at that point. So
Well, you
we're
have to, because you said something funny, a legitimate landlord response. I'm like, is there really a legitimate landlord referral when that landlord's trying to get rid of them to move into your property?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, before I know attorneys have mixed emotions and feelings, and especially because of the documentation that is required with going the security deposit route. And in the beginning, we were like, we don't want to have to deal with all those accounts and be organized. Now, security deposits, it's a non-starter, will be organized. And, I imagine 9 out of 10 times we're going to keep the security deposit, or it'll come off their rent during normal repair and maintenance requests if they don't stay within the tenant bylaws that they sign when
Yeah.
they place a lease. So
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, I just interrupted for a second just to give a commercial, guys. As a Boston REIA member, you have access to Rent Perfect investigative tenant screening in the members area. So just in regards to the security process for pulling, credit reports, background checks, these guys keep all that management. You don't have to deal with all the requirements around that. So if you are going to have from a single family, multifamily, and are doing tenant screening, please use your benefit using Rent Perfect. It'll make your life a heck of a lot easier. We have a lot of that stuff in the members area to find about. So thanks, Eric. I'll let you get on with the rest of the slide now.
no worries. That's perfect. Thank you. Those are all great content and good questions. Okay, Harrison, what are we up to? Upcoming refinances. All right. So yeah, that was this is 29 rental units. We bought it 2 years ago for 1.35 million. We actually leveraged some seller financing. I think for this project, we only came to the closing table with like $125,000, which was pretty awesome. These buildings were in better shape. We're still consistently turning over a handful of units. But this one it's actually probably going to see a targeted appraisal closer to 2.9 this upcoming summer. So that's an exciting one for us. And then let's see, Harrison. I think you might be. Do I have the fund information after this?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think one of the scariest things for investors, I mean, hard money is, definitely one strategy, asking your friends and family for money, is part of the game. But, the SEC is a very scary entity, and it sounds great, but, can you tell us about the process you went through to acquire the fund? And guys, if you're not ready to invest yourself into that, I wholeheartedly think you should be investing in these funds to get the returns offered, because those are phenomenal interest rate returns. But can you tell us, the difficulties in the process? How long did it take, in setting up this fund, and the security that you have behind this, that, if anybody does invest with you,
Sure.
what goes on?
Sure. Yeah. So, the fund was actually something that Harrison and I had been discussing in 2018. We were realizing that if we wanted to keep scaling and growing, we were eventually going to need to expand our network. And essentially, we never really needed to use the fund until about this year. We ended up networking with an attorney of ours that we were working with for a couple of years, and we were telling her about, hey, we need to raise money. We're learning about these SEC fund things, and she said, oh, I actually happen to have a friend who used to work for the SEC. Now she has her own law practice. So we got in touch with her. Her name is Katie Carrington, and she's a very, very small shop. So the process was actually really quite intimate, to be honest with you. It wasn't overly terrifying. There's a ton of documentation. You've got to, but for the most part, the attorneys draft all of it. So the important part is that when you create a fund, depending on the structure, there's certain parameters that you have to adhere to. So one of those, and a very, very important one, is that only accredited investors can enter the fund. So you have to have a certain income. You need to make a certain amount of money every year that needs to be verified by an SEC accredited like accountant or an attorney, or you can provide tax returns. Whoever invests with you has to prove to us that they are accredited and they make a certain amount of money, or that they have a certain net worth of over $1 million. So as long as you put that up front, that this opportunity is only for accredited investors, and then you just go through the documentation process, and you've got a time window to record everything with the SEC. So far, knock on wood, it's been a relatively pleasant experience, and it's been really liberating to be able to literally put this out to the world, on Facebook, and not have to worry about offering an investment and not legally being able to do it. So this, Duncan, is brand new. We just got the fund really off the ground and rocking and rolling in the middle of January. And we're excited. We've already got $250,000 in commitments for the fund. But essentially what it does is the Wollaston Wealth Fund, that's the name, is managed by our company, Wollaston Real Estate Investments. So as an accredited investor, it allows you to earn returns by investing directly into our portfolio of residential and mixed use development. So as an investor, you purchase a share, right, or a unit, and you get a 15% APR on your capital investment. You've got an opportunity to take a yearly distribution, or because we're only able to do this because we've got the really big, beautiful equity position on the back end, or we'll let you compound it annually for the 36-month term that you're with us. So, if you're an investor and you truly just want to be a passive investor, I agree with Duncan. Go the fun route. Get a piece of somebody else's pie. If you want to roll up your sleeves and you want to put the work in, there's absolutely more money to be made if you're willing to work for it and put it into your own development. But yeah, the fund so far has been a pretty smooth sailing operation for us. Harrison, you want to go to the next one? And then, just like any other part of real estate, you're educating investors, right? Because as long as they're accredited, as long as they, I think you have to make $200,000 or more a year as a high net worth individual, or if you file jointly with your partner, over $300,000 a year in income, or you have to be worth $1 million outside of your primary residence. So once you educate them on that, and then you work to, run them through how an investment works, how your business model works. There's a lot more to this, but it's all kind of the same things, just like you would do if you were networking at a cocktail party and trying to raise money from friends, family, fools, or people within your circle. But yeah, couple key elements. You're investing in every single piece of real estate that's managed by Wollaston Real Estate Investments. You're in it for 36 months. There's a $50,000 minimum investment. And then you can pull out your capital as you approach. You just have to provide a 90-day window. Yeah, so there's that, Harrison. And then the next one, which I think is probably the most interesting, and this is something definitely different. A lot of investors or developers will create a fund for a one-off investment. For example, I want to build 200 units. I need to raise $10 million to build this 200 units. And if this 200 unit building does really well, I will pay you back your investment plus a preferred rate of return and probably some equity. That's a very typical standard fund in a lot of ways. We do it a little bit differently. So when you invest in the Wollaston Wealth Fund, the Wollaston Wealth Fund is raising capital for each of these 9 entities that own real estate. Every entity is managed by Wollaston Real Estate Investments, and every entity has the Wollaston Wealth Fund as a member. So in a way, you're secured you literally have, and you literally have a piece of the pie in every single piece of real estate that we manage and own under our individual LLCs. So why we do that, and this is really us betting on ourselves. We have purchased an investment project and we have lost money on an investment project, but we've never not let an investor lose their money. We'll roll it over to something else, pay them back in full with interest. Life happens, business happens. Not every deal is going to be a winner. It is what it is. But since we already know that's part of our business core ethics, we essentially collateralize every single piece of property that we have. So for example, if the Wallace & Wealth Fund is raising capital for 445 High Street, it'll inject cash in 445 High Street. Let's say 445 High Street, we sell it and we can't pay back everybody for whatever reason, right? We can't pay everybody back. That means we can liquidate either assets or equity from one of the other 8 companies the Wallace & Wealth Fund has invested in that we manage and own to make the investor whole. So that is really, we're the only people that I've met so far that are really doing this. And I can tell you that from the people we've spoken to, they really, really like that because they feel about as secure as they can making an investment in real estate. So there's a lot of trust to be built as you're working to raise capital and educate investors. And yeah, that's been our structure so far. So if you were curious how we're raising capital and financing our projects moving forward, this is exactly how we do it.
So, Alex, you would still send out a prospectus on an individual property specifically you're raising money for, or do you just promote the fund? And at what time would a person pass the money through to you, when the project right before commencement, or what is that process?
Yeah, so the Wallace & Wealth Fund, which is essentially secured into each entity, we might be raising capital for one specific investment, but the proceeds to pay back that investor can be paid back at or before the 36-month term is complete from any one of these investments. So when we market the fund, you're going to see a prospectus, you're going to get a business plan, as well as an offering memorandum and a private placement memorandum. And those legal documents encompass essentially every single investment that we own and manage. So while we may be raising for one off, we might be raising for one project at a time. When an investor sees that, they're realizing that they're investing in the fund and we get to choose how we invest that capital. But we're obviously upfront with them and saying, hey, we need to put $500,000 on this project where, we're going to sell 10 shares of the Wallace & Wealth Fund. And then from there, essentially, once the documents are all signed and everybody's, the ink is dry, then they can wire it. We have to record our documents with the SEC through our attorney, and then the loan is live. And then you just go on as business as usual, updating investors and putting money to work.
Okay.
And although we are raising, we do typically, as we're typically raising capital as needed as the portfolio grows. So as we have a new project and we have a new prospectus or send out, we are raising it for the project, yes, but the fund is structured to be an open fund. So even if we weren't particularly raising money at a time for an upcoming project, but someone came to us and they said, hey, I really like your business model. I'm interested in buying, the Wallace & Wealth Fund. We could take money at any time. And if we were raising for 445 High Street was our most recent acquisition. So if for whatever reason it was going to be, there was a 6-month delay on the purchase closing of the property, but we were marketing that project as saying, hey, this is why we're growing the fund by this property. We're growing it by this amount of dollars. And if someone said, hey, I know there's a delay of 6 months in the property, but I want to get my investment live right now, they could, we could certainly activate the investment early. It's not necessarily, it wouldn't come in just to close on the specific property that is growing the portfolio and fund.
Yeah. And a big part of that for us is, obviously you want to make sure that from like a management perspective and a cash out refinance or a sales pipeline, you want to make sure that you've got projects essentially in appropriate timelines. That way you don't have all of this capital coming due at one time and you don't have the project ready to pay them out, right? The alternative is extending with them or re-raising to replace them, which is, is not the goal. So yeah, our goal is, like Harrison said, we can grow this fund, we can shrink this fund however we see fit. Duncan, if you said I got $5 million for you tomorrow, let's go in on 200 units. We just change the documents to the fund. So Wealth Fund becomes a member in our new LLC. Whilst Real Estate Investments becomes the manager of the new LLC, and now the fund can inject cash directly into that, but it's secured across the entire portfolio. Yeah. So. Okay.
That's awesome. So, do you want to open up for some questions, or do you have?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Harrison, if you want to go back to, if you want to maybe just end it on the contact page, that way people can screenshot or write it down, and then we'll gladly answer any questions it's back before the fund.
Awesome, guys. So 2 ways you can ask questions is in the chat bar, in the chat section. You can type in your question there, or you can raise your hand to ask the question yourself. I'm just making sure I can see everybody so I can see something going up. But yeah, let's open it up to the questions.
How do you raise your hand?
How do you raise your hand? Down at the bottom, you'll see reactions. If you have your camera on, that's one way. If you don't have your camera on, there's a clap, a thumb, a little emoticon down there. I think that should be it. Or just ask me to unmute, and I'll do it that way.
All right, I'd love to ask a question.
All right, Marilyn, take it away.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hey, good. So I just put 39 units under purchase and sale contract in Worcester. I'm starting to get investors together and things like that. So at some point, I'd love to talk to you more about that. But 21 of the 37 of them are residential, 2 of them are small commercial. 21 of the residential are already Section 8, but they're like 30% below CoStar rents. How do you get the attention, and how long has this worked for your process? How do you get the attention of Section 8 people to raise those rents? Because I read Section 8 will, as you said, pay 100% of the market rate, or even 110% of the market rate. How do you get the attention of the Section 8 people so you can raise the rents? And what's that cycle been for you? How long is it?
Yeah, and from our experience, it could be somewhat unique to the local housing authority. They don't necessarily all, from my experience so far, is operate under the same timelines. In Holyoke, for example, if you purchased, this was our with Will Harrison. What is it?
An hour. No, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay.
So
Yes.
you're saying it's by individual territory, so to speak, huh?
What I would recommend reaching out to the housing authority and asking them on their process. Typically, it's relatively simple. It's a rent increase request form, and you use comparable rents in the neighborhood as in the building if you have them to justify the increased rent. They'll come out, they'll do their own property inspection, and then hopefully you guys can essentially fall in the middle or meet your number. We have worked so far to try to place new housing authority rents in. So we're essentially starting with a vacant unit and then, saying this is market rent, look at it, it's clean and nice. we haven't had to experience that quite as much. But it should be relatively simple as just, it's a raised rent request form.
And can you threaten to say to Section 8, okay, I need more rent, or these people have to get out because they don't really have a lease anymore? I think, as I understand, Section 8, you get a lease for a year, and then you're sort of tenant at will Section 8 person. That's what I understood.
Yeah,
So-
you definitely don't have to renew leases. There are quite a few different housing authority voucher programs in Springfield. We inherited about 50% of the building on some ancient housing authority program from like the 50s or 60s. And they told us it would, like right out the gate, they were straight up front with us. And they were like, you're not allowed to request a rent increase. It'll take at least 12 months before we'll even acknowledge it. And they set the rate for it, and we have no control over it. So the rents are still pretty good when we got in there, but they were about $75 less than what we were, eligible to get with the new housing authority voucher. So just spend a little bit of time and talk to your local representatives there to understand their model and some of those, quirks.
Okay. Next
Okay.
question we have is from Chris. I'm going to unmute him now. Chris Baranu. Are you unmuted, Chris?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep, there you go.
Okay, great. Thank you for having this. This is the first time I've been here. This is awesome. So much appreciated, everyone. Alex, you made a comment at the outset about learning some lessons in East Boston. I was just curious what those were.
That we really didn't know what we were doing. And that ignorance partnered with contractors who, in and of their own right, weren't cash flow positive, put us in horrible position. And then to add just kind of salt to the wound, we had one general contractor linked to 6 projects at a time. So he was screwing over, we were doing the lien forms and all of these things for our draws, but he wasn't paying his subcontractors. He was stealing deposits from other customers to pay for other, he was robbing Peter to pay Paul in his own business, and we didn't underwrite that, and we didn't know that was something we needed to underwrite. So we got stuck with essentially this broke GC and a bunch of subcontractors that we paid for, but they weren't paid. So, come trying to finish the projects required us to raise more capital. We started overseeing a lot of the construction ourselves. We started paying the subcontractors ourselves. I found myself in court with that general contractor. He went bankrupt, just filed a new LLC, and it is what it is. But when you get into higher priced markets like East Boston, if you don't know what you're doing, it's like paying high stakes poker. We were spending $64,000 a month in interest payments and mortgage payments for buildings that were not generating any revenue whatsoever. So if you go over 6 months collectively across your portfolio and you're paying $60,000 a month, there's a $360,000 hit. So you need to find that $360,000 hit every month, like $60,000 a month. You don't have it, right? So you need to raise it to pay it. And then that's going to come off your future profit. So hopefully you didn't go over budget, which we did. So yeah, it was kind of this collective storm of horrible things that happened to us. And then we had to have a handful of really hard but honest conversations with our investors. And we would say things like, Marty, I promise I want to pay you back, but I can't. And this is why. And then I would say, I don't know how I'm going to pay you back, but I promise I'm going to find another project and I will pay you back eventually. And I'll sign a new note. I'll sign a new personal guarantee, but I'm going to need you to kind of ride with me for another 24 months. And unfortunately, you don't have an option. And so we had, we went to our strongest relationships and we had those conversations. And every single one of them was like, you know what? So sorry to hear you're going through this, experience. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for telling me and not surprising me at the closing table. And then almost every investor actually reinvested new money with us for, wave 2 of development for us. And, we just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And a handful of them are still actively investing with us to this day now.
Very good. And I assume that this is prior to you all being, actively managing the construction, the reason you had to hire a GC?
Yes. So, this was the catalyst for Harrison to get his construction supervisor license, was going through this set of experiences. And for the last 6 months or so, even though we were not licensed, Harrison was on the ground. He was talking to subcontractors. We didn't pay the general contractor anymore. Like we would, ultimately we had to contractually pay his fee, but we would take care of subcontractors. And, that 6 months of energy and effort was really the catalyst to, us deciding to get Harrison licensed and then adding the insurance. And then I think for about the next year or so, we worked with friends that pulled permit for us. And we would take care of them from an insurance perspective. And then I think Harrison got his CSL in 2019. And then that was a big game changer for us.
Thank you for sharing.
Hey, okay, so next question comes from Carissa, and I think probably will fall in line with what you just said. She said, what was the most challenging part of starting your real estate journey? So I'll let you answer that one. And then Sarah's asked right after that one, what's the minimum investment required to get into your fund and what's the hold period? And then Karen's got a question she'll go on voice for.
Okay. Harrison, why don't you say the hardest part? You say your hardest part.
My hardest part of so far, well, I mean, I guess I'm just going to go with the one I typically go with because it's the one that's burned most into my memory. Then it has to do with losing money and the lessons learned from it. And it's intertwined with getting the CSL license and getting, becoming more involved in self-managing projects. But we did a house in Brookline. It was when we were still doing single family houses in 2017. We did what turned out to be actually a really beautiful single family house in Brookline. It was actually on House Hunters, which was pretty cool. So we took that and ran with it and put a feature on HGTV on our website. But yeah, it was actually on House Hunters. They did not pick it.
That shows a load of crap.
Yeah, the whole thing's anyway. But I personally love the property. I thought the quality of it came out great. Of course, we went way over budget and way over time. There were a number of reasons that the investment piece of it went wrong. The product came out good, but the investment was wrong. And it actually, if you're familiar with Boston and the Green Line that runs through part of Brookline, the biggest mistake we made actually was underestimating the preference of a $1.3 million buyer to be away from the train, because at its closest point, the actual house was about 6 feet from the Green Line. It was very close. And, as a 26-year-old, I was like, I don't care. I'd live here. This is a great house in Brookline. But I wasn't a $1.3 million buyer. Turned out none of them really liked it. So that was one of the big investment mistakes. But the hardest lesson from it, and why it's so burned in my memory, is typically when you sell a house, when you sell a property, assuming you've made all the right decisions, you receive a wire, and sellers, cash to sellers proceeds, and you have your, after your distributions, you have your profit. I believe that was the only time where, as we were selling the property, I actually had to go wire out $75,000 to the closing attorney to sell the property. And that was can't forget that one, I guess.
Yeah, that one sucks.
It sucks. I mean, it wasn't the only thing we've ever lost money on, but in the way in which, like, knowing that you had to go to the bank and send out money to sell the property, it was just like, it's just so disgusting.
So the last question we'll take here, because we're just right on 9 o'clock now. Says Karen, you don't look like a Karen, but I'm going to ask you to unmute, just introduce yourself and then ask your question.
And Carl, Karen's fiance. We're getting into buying condemned buildings and fixing them up and stuff like that. But we're sticking with the 4-family and under just because we're new. Do you think we're being gun shy, or do you think we should take more of a risk?
I'll tell you why I really like, I mean, if you're buying a condemned building, it's kind of leveling the playing field. That's not a building that any normal buyer can purchase. If it needs that much kind of work, you're gonna be able to drive the acquisition price of that building down substantially. Or at least you should be able to enter it. One of the reasons why I tell most people to stay out of the 4-unit and below property size is because when your 4 units are smaller, that is an FHA financeable building. So when you are competing as an investor with first-time home buyers, you're never going to win unless the property is seriously dilapidated and they can't get financing for it. For example, I am selling this house that I'm sitting in right now. We're 2 blocks off of Wollaston Beach, and it's listed for over $1 million, over $330,000 a unit. But as soon as you go to 5 units or up, there are larger multifamily comp buildings 5 blocks away that traded for $250,000 a unit. And when you're basing your acquisition, when you're basing your financing and your capital stack and all the money that you're going to use and how much it's going to be worth, commercial developers and investors get to use income verification approaches to establish the value. Therefore, depending on how much money the building makes is how much it's worth. You could have the same building. One makes $1 million, one makes $100,000. It's the same building, but the one that makes $1 million is going to be worth a lot more. When it comes to FHA, first-time home buyer qualified buildings, they don't really look at that, because as long as the buyer is qualified to get the loan, if it comps with the rest of the buildings in the neighborhood, that's the value. That's the price. Somebody could buy this building and make zero money off of it for the next 10 years. But if they make enough money to support the mortgage payment, taxes, and insurance, and they make $200,000 a year, they don't really care. They just want to live in this area. So if it's condemned, I say go for it. If you're going to buy the ugliest thing on the block, go for it. If you're going to try to buy something that's relatively clean and you just want something that's a bit more passive, go 5 units and up.
No, I want to do the work. I want to get dirty and do the work, so it's got to be either condemned or pretty close to being condemned before I'll even, because of that reason, what you were just saying, because of the FHA and all that stuff. You're right. I would lose money because I'm not going to make the money and rent really that I would make. I pay the mortgage and everything and end up with $100 like. So.
Right.
Yeah, just to double.
Thank you.
At this point in my life, I don't want to work anymore. So for me, looking at projects and funds is ideal. So you got to know your risk, time, style that you want. So I've been in this business a long time. You guys still have youth and vigor and passion left. I'm like, no, I'm leaving it for little guys, got the money, rather invest and, and take my 15%, which is, phenomenal. So, guys, being it is 9 o'clock, if you want to get hold of Harrison or Alex, they're very approachable. You can see they've been doing this. They're local. Their numbers, their emails are up there. Hey, if you have not got a copy of this chat, I'm going to give you time to copy and paste that entire chat bar into a document, because that is your networking session, what people are looking for, what they have, what they need. So please, before I end this meeting, say copy and paste that into a separate file. Alex Harrison, thank you very much for coming on tonight. It'd be fun to have you back, in a year's time and seeing how you've progressed. Maybe have a few of our members talk about, what they've done with you. Guys, also make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter. We have some really interesting things coming up this month. There's some things going on legislative wise you need to be aware of, which it blows my mind, what's going on that we have to fight against. But keep an eye out for that. So guys, thanks once again for showing up for this month's meeting. Thank you again, our speakers, and go to the website, see what we have to offer, become a member. It's a no-brainer to become a member. We're here for you. If you need mentoring or anything like that, you want us to hold your hand, we have a program for that too. So guys, your final minute to copy and paste everything down. Everybody's pasting
Yes.
something. And
Duncan, Jill is asking how exactly do you copy and paste? So let's walk her through it.
so put your little cursor in the chat box and go Control C. I think that's what it is. Control C. Well, now I
Select
can't.
all.
Yeah, select all and then copy and open up another notepad or a Word document and then Control V.
V as in Victor,
As in
for
Victor.
paste.
That will
Mhm.
give you that entire chat meeting. For our members, I have been recording this, so I will post it in our members area. Another reason to become a member. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Valuable information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.